Hello and welcome to Tech Today. My name is Aayush Ailawadi and we are so glad to be back here in the Tech Today studios in Mumbai. We enjoyed our time in Korea, but it's time to get back to business with an India special show now. And for that, we've got mail on Tech Today, an exclusive first look of the new JioBook. Can this actually make technology a lot more accessible and affordable? They didn't get right the first time, but is second time a charm for the JioBook? All that and a lot more on this action-packed episode of Tech Today. But before that, we need to unbox it. The new JioBook. Now, the company seems to be calling this India's first learning book. And I can understand where that comes from. We're going to delve deeper into some of the features, what the software is like, what the hardware is like. But first, let me tell you what it's like when you're holding it. It is as light as a feather. More importantly, it's got this really nice blue, I think Apple inspired in many ways. And it is a matte finish. Very good to hold, very good to grip. Honestly, doesn't seem like a laptop or a tablet or a learning book, if that's what they're calling it, which is under 20,000 rupees. Yes, spoiler alert, this is under 20,000 rupees. We actually want to ask the question whether this is a gimmick or a game changer on Tech Today. Now, when I said light as a feather, that's less than 1 kilograms. Well, I was kind of overstating it. 990 grams. And honestly, if you're traveling with this or you're in the mountains or on a beach somewhere, it's all right, but that's not the ideal use. Now, since this is your exclusive first look of the JioBook on Tech Today, and this is our initial impressions as well, I'm going to very quickly tell you about the specs of this particular device. Now, since we're talking about the hardware and design, before we get under the hood, let me tell you that it has a SIM tray right here. It also comes with other inbuilt ports like USB, HDMI, and audio ports as well. You can slip in your 3.5mm jack, old school headphones, and enjoy the show. You open it up and it has an infinity keyboard and this massive trackpad. An infinity keyboard means that the keys extend right till the end on using all the screen real estate. If you just forget the display and the specs, this looks and feels like a very premium device. But this is going to be my Shakespearean moment, which I will repeat throughout every section of this segment. This particular computer, tablet, learning book, let's just call it device, a Tech Today special, only costs 16,499 rupees. It goes on sale on August 5th. But the truth of the matter is that this is a device for the masses, for the underconnected or unconnected population. And now let's delve deeper to what is under the hood with the JioBook. It now comes with a 2 GHz octa-core processor, 4 GB of RAM on board, 64 GB of storage, which is expandable, of course, to 256 GB with an SD card. And more importantly, the company claims that this comes with up to 8 hours or all-day battery life. That's something we haven't been able to test in our short time with the device, but we will tell you on the Tech Today website what our experience has been like, a little bit more than our initial impressions video here on Tech Today. Now, when you're talking about the software experience, it runs on JioOS, which is based on Android 11. Now, in terms of display, it comes with an anti-glare HD display. In terms of brightness, I think they could have done a little better. It does seem like you're using a device from a long time ago, but again, we have to reiterate the price point. And at that price point, I think it gets the job done if you're watching basic content and using some of the e-learning and learning features of this JioBook, which include something really cool, which is software coding for kids. And if you want to figure that out and you're trying to learn how to code in some remote part of the country or the world, you can still do it with JioBean, which is their coding platform. Now, of course, all over India, one thing remains the same with all of us consumers. We are very price conscious and we're very aware of the features we want. Post the pandemic, and I wish this was launched during the pandemic, it could have been an absolute game changer, but we'll get to the verdict in a bit. This particular device comes with an HD camera with stereo speakers. Now, I think the stereo speakers and the camera get the job done. If you were to use JioMeet or Zoom, I think it's a fairly decent performance. Look, it's not a MacBook or an iPad. Now, this is a very different segment. More importantly, I think reviewers the last time around with the JioBook were really comparing apples to oranges. And I'm going to tell you why I think about that after we've come to JioOS. Now, JioOS is their version of an operating system where all of this stuff is possible at this price point. Things are optimized. They, of course, have a Jio store which you can use. Plug in your SIM, voila, 4G is working like a charm. Even if Wi-Fi is not there, you could use maybe your phone as a hotspot. But if you have any standard Jio SIM, plug it in and some of these features come to life. Honestly, when you're using this device, JioOS seems about right. The big criticism the last time around was that they were using Android 10, an outdated operating system. It seems like the company has listened and given you a slightly updated version. Let's see what kind of updates we get over the years, what kind of security patches we get. Now, in terms of using JioOS for the past few hours or maybe a day, it gets the job done. When you're talking about multitasking, just like a MacBook, flick this up on the trackpad and all your running apps have showed up over there. It is seamless. I haven't seen much of a lag. I haven't seen any sort of stutter. Yes, there are some apps which are third-party apps where sometimes I've seen them stall, but I'm guessing that with updates this will get better. Now, if we are nitpicking, could the camera have been better? Perhaps. Could the display have been better? Surely. Could the sound have been crystal clear? Dolby Atmos for that matter. You could have watched the latest flick Oppenheimer on this. We'd love all of that. But we need to remember that this device costs 16,500 rupees. And this is before all the sales coming up in August, so it might get a lot cheaper. At that price point, I think it is quite a power-packed device. And more importantly, for the audience that it is looking at, which is the masses. You're talking about Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, towns, villages even, with that 4G SIM. Now let's look at some of the things that are working for this. If you want to learn how to code, you can do that on the JioBook. If you want to learn how to set up maybe your own fitness studio, you can do that on this particular device. If you want to learn how to maybe edit this particular show and join us on Tech Today, you can also watch a bunch of YouTube videos to do the same thing. There's a lot of educational content within the Jio TV app as well. Now, of course, this is only our unboxing and initial impressions video. You can see a lot more on our social media handles and on the Tech Today website. But all I can say is maybe the JioBook first edition had a few shortcomings, which I think, to give them due credit, they have worked on. It looks good. It sounds fairly decent. The OS has been tweaked and improved, and the fact that you can code on a device under 17,000 rupees is mind-blowing. And yes, just like the original JioBook, even this device will be compared like apples to oranges, and it will face its fair set of feedback and criticism and all of that. But I honestly think in terms of democratizing technology and connecting the masses in India, reaching the smallest towns, crossing mountains, rivers, lakes and seas, this device is a step in the right direction. Segment on popular demand, which is very dear to my heart. It's where we engage with you, the Tech Today community, and answer all your tech queries and questions. Now, you can always write into us on our social media handles, and of course, DM me as well, and we will pick up the best questions and refresh and reintroduce this segment to you, because we want to know what you're thinking and we'd love to answer some of your queries. Now, the team has sifted through some of these questions, and here are a couple that we want to start off with. The first one comes from Gaurav Singh. Gaurav, thanks so much for watching the show. And he asks, what do you use for editing? Now, that's an interesting question, Gaurav, because while we use all sorts of devices, sometimes when I'm on the go, I do it even on my phone. The team uses Macs in Office, but the show goes on the road often. And one device that I do not leave home without is my iPad. It could be the iPad Air or the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro with its 120 Hz refresh rate. And now the fact that it comes with editing softwares which can work really well for an on-the-go edit. And of course, on the go, I use several apps on the iPhone and flagship Android devices like the Samsung S23 Ultra, or even the Fold, which makes it very easy with that big screen. But these are just some of our Jugaadu options. Now, what if you do want to invest in a desktop computer because it doesn't come with that portability and the mobility factor? but you still want that processing power. You don't want to spend on a luxury device like an iPad, because a lot of people don't seem to understand why an iPad is the ultimate device. For me, this is everything from multitasking, productivity, creativity. With the Apple Pencil and this keyboard, this device does it all. When you're talking about the perfect mix, the OG happens to be the MacBook. And the MacBook Pro can do perhaps the best job at editing a show like Tech Today. I mean, it is overpowered, supercharged with that M2 Max. So you can toss any amount of graphics or streams of 4K and it doesn't even take a small hiccup. If you talk about the display, this is perhaps the clearest, biggest 16-inch display that I have seen on a laptop. And I think that's ideal and optimum for video editing, especially if you're getting into the details like we do on Tech Today. Like I said, a 16.2-inch display, the brightest images, the deepest contrast, and when it comes to editing, it's actually going to even perhaps put a lot of desktop computers, especially the ones running Windows, out of the running. And two things that really matter when you're really tasking these machines with so much of processing and data is the battery life, which is fairly decent. I think Macs by themselves are far better than Windows devices when it comes to optimizing battery, and overheating. Now, does that happen on the MacBook Air? Not so much, even though there are no fans. But in terms of how they've managed the thermal dissipation, this particular laptop stays super chill, and that's something we really like. It's not noisy, you don't hear those fans all the time. It is very chilled out, and you can focus even without your noise cancellation on the edit and stay chilled about it as well. Now, this was our candid explanation and justification for using this device. If you want more, you have to log on to the Tech Today website. With all of these questions, the bigger, deeper answers are on our website and a lot more on our social media handles. Let's move on to the next question. And this one comes from Arun. As an aspiring VO artist or a voiceover artist, he's asking, do you think that technology can take away jobs from the voicing industry? Now, voiceovers, dubbing, stuff that I've done all my life, it requires a unique character to your voice and the way you approach that particular project. But of late, I've been experimenting with AI in several fields and different segments. And some of the softwares using artificial intelligence nowadays when it comes to voiceovers and dubbing can absolutely blow your mind. I'll give you an example that I experienced in Korea itself. If you were to actually see the original video, you'd see that without using, well, any sort of technology, just a clean video with captions, this particular read.
Night and you want to get back home and just chill out, go to sleep and toss all your technology.
As you can see,
literally,
there's no AI, it's practically me, hopefully. But then when you use a little bit of AI over here and try to have some fun, this particular software could mimic my voice to a large extent and give me Hindi captions in under 30 seconds. I could translate to Telugu, Tamil, Marathi, French, German, whatever I wanted. This is still in beta phase.
जब पूरे दिन की मेहनत के बाद तुम घर लौटना चाहते हो और बस आराम करना चाहते हो, सोना चाहते हो और अपनी सारी टेक्नोलॉजी को पानी में फेंक.
What I'm trying to say is, let me know in the comment section below whether AI Aayush sounds better or the original Aayush, but the logic being that it took it just 30 seconds to actually dub my voice using AI. If you go by what YouTube's now doing, they're integrating an AI-powered dubbing tool for creators. So you make a video in Hindi and you want to reach out to a global audience because revenues on YouTube are more for a global audience. Convert it within the YouTube app over some time and voila, you are now an English-speaking creator. Vice versa, you want to open up to the Indian market or a regional market within India, I could be doing a Telugu video in a matter of minutes or even in real time. You've seen how the captions have shown up on Instagram and YouTube. You can now do that very soon with social media apps as well. So to answer your question, as much as the voiceover industry and the dubbing industry is very dear to me, yes, there is an impending threat from AI. So all I can say is let's upskill and figure out how to use these softwares and be even more unique with the things that we do in the creative world. It looks like we have a question from Lokendra Sharma. Lokendra, thanks so much for tuning in to Tech Today. And he asks, shall I buy the Flip 4 or the Flip 5? Now, the Flip 4 was a very good phone 1 year ago. Now, after I've come back from Korea, And before I left for Korea, I had a bunch of different views. Before I left for Korea, I told you that there's an Oppo flip phone, then you have the Motorola, and honestly, they look like, well, incremental evolutions. And the Motorola was winning the battle of 2023 until last week, when the Flip 4 became so yesterday, and it turns out we have a new contender, the Z Flip 5. That's right. And because we have it over here, and Lokendra, you've asked a very, very relevant question, while our flips are making all sorts of noises. Now, I'll be very honest about it. Back in the day, this small notification screen seemed to work for Samsung for so many years when they were the only players in the market. Then comes along Oppo with a much bigger and a more functional screen, but still not the whole gamut. Then comes Motorola, the OG of foldables, and says, hey, we've got this Razr 40 Ultra, which we showed you last week, and all of these three devices looked very different. But then at Galaxy Unpacked, which you saw exclusively here on Tech Today, and now you're seeing the first look of the Z Flip 5 in India. Now, you saw it in Korea when we gave you the initial impressions, but let's unbox this device. There you go. What's so different about the Flip 5? And Lokendra, since you're on the market in this week of 2023, please wait for this to come in your hands. Have a look at the Fold as well. In fact, the Fold 5 from the Fold 4 was minimal innovation, if you ask me. If you were getting a good deal on the Fold 4, it's not a bad idea. But the Flip is a whole different ball game. I'm just going to keep it right here. This is the first time we've done an unboxing on this Ask Aayush segment. It just looks so much more premium with this massive cover screen. This is the Flip 4 that you were considering, and this is the Flip 5. I think that answers your main question. The fact that Samsung now has this massive display on the outside, which is incredibly functional and utilitarian. You can do all sorts of things. Do your work from here. You can use the widgets on it. Now, it's one thing to have a much bigger cover screen in the Flip 5, nearly 3.5 inches, but it's another thing to have a lot more utility and usefulness in that screen. You have so many widgets over here which you can use. So often you don't need to even, open the screen except when you want to consume content on it. Now, under the hood, of course, this comes with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. And there's one more design change. Look, they already had water and dust resistance on a Flip and Fold device, which is a big industry first by Samsung a couple of years ago. But if you looked at last year's or any of the previous foldables, there was quite a gap right here. You could fit a visiting card right here, and that often attracted a lot of, let's just say, foreign bodies or dust particles. Now, there is practically, with the new Flip 5, firstly, the flexing mechanism is much smoother. And when you do shut it, it seems like something incremental, but there is absolutely no gap in between. And that's quite a design. At 80,000 rupees for the base model, I don't know about the rest of the competition. We'll have to test this extensively and compare it with the other devices. But it is definitely a more value for money proposition than, its previous edition. What if you have an ordinary car at home and you want it to sound like a supercar? If you've been watching Tech Today a lot and consuming our content across different platforms, maybe you like the way the BMW i7 has different sound profiles tuned by Hollywood composers, or you just like some of those supercharged engines we've had on the show as well. But if you just have a budget, which is a measly amount of 300 rupees only, can that make your ordinary car sound like a supercar? Well, for that problem, Tech Today's Danny DeCruz has a very specific solution. Over to you, Danny.
Hi. So you love supercars, just like us, but you don't have crores and lakhs to spend on them, just like us. What do? You buy this. This tiny thing right here is an OBD2 adapter, and it will turn your mundane sounding car to a supercar. So let's show you how it's done. First things first, you need to find the OBD2 port. Now it could be under your glove box right here or somewhere under the steering wheel. All you need to do is take your OBD2 adapter, find the port, align it correctly, and just insert it. You might see a slight light blinking once it's correctly placed. Once the OBD2 adapter is in place, all you need to do is whip out your smartphone, connect it via Bluetooth to the adapter, and then download an app like Rev Heads, which is available on both Google and Apple via the App Store and the Play Store. Now, all you have to do is open the app and then go to OBD2 option. You have to connect via Bluetooth. There you'll see the OBD2 option. And voila, it's connected. Now that's all done. Go back to the dashboard. Select the vehicle sound that you like. It could be a Ferrari too. And just hit drive. And voila, we have a Ferrari. Let's see how it sounds. And the fun part is you have multiple options to choose from. You can even choose a bike if you would like. Say a 1800cc V-twin. Let's go. Many more options to choose from. There's the Nissan 350Z, there's GT3, there's Ferrari 458 GT3. Oh yes, I forgot the best part, the price. You can buy it for as low as rupees 300 on popular e-commerce sites. And now it seems like a steal deal. It's not all perfect, but once it starts working, it will leave you smiling.
Exclusive first looks from affordable tech to flagship tech, all the way fresh off the boat from Korea. Questions and answers, especially when you're concerned about whether AI can take away your job in the creative industries, and a few tech hacks, especially if you're an auto and tech enthusiast. It's been an action-packed show, but we hope you've enjoyed consuming this content as much as the Tech Today team has enjoyed putting it together for you. I'm your host Aayush Ailawadi, and all I can say is until next week, adios.